brothers and sisters. Let's start tonight's Q&A with my first question to Brother Bante. So much has been spoken on the importance of attaining, that is the first area path, that is the Sotapanna. Bante, what is the best way for a lay devotee to attain Sotapanna? What is the best way for a lay devotee to attain Sotapanna?
Okay, some of you don't know. The word Sotapanna means the first fruit, the first stage of Aryan first fruit. Now to attain that, normally you have to attain the path first. The path, the first marga. And today I brought some DVDs on my talk last year called the Sutta Guide to Paths and Fruits. There it is explained quite in detail. To attain the first path, marga, you need 4 factors. These 4 factors are called the 4 conditions for stream entry. In Pali, it's Sotapatti Yangani. And these 4, the first one is association with a true man. And in this context, the true man means somebody who knows the true Dhamma, the original Dhamma, which is basically the suttas. Now the second condition, because you associate with a true man, you get to hear the true Dhamma. The third condition is when you hear the true Dhamma, you have focused attention. In Pali is Yoniso Manasikara. And the fourth condition is practice of the Dhamma in accordance with the Dhamma. Dhamma no Dhamma Patipatti. This I have explained in the talk Sutta Guide as practicing the 7 factors of the Arya Noble Path. Because the first path attainer and the first fruit attainer, the Sotapanna, does not need jhana. Only the second path upwards you need jhana. So these 4 conditions are the necessary conditions for you to attain the first path. And according to Samyutta Nikaya Sutta 25.1, after you attain the first path, the same lifetime that wisdom will mature and it will turn to fruit. That's when you become a Sotapanna and 3 factors fall away. So that is the way to attain Sotapanna, by first attaining the path, stream entry. And these are the 4 factors. But these 4 factors can also be shortened to two conditions. Basically, if you get right view, you have entered the stream. All Aryans have right view. And this is stated, I think, in the Anguttara Nikaya Velama Sutta. So, to get right view, according to Majjhima Nikaya Sutta 43, there are only 2 conditions. The voice of another teaching you the true Dhamma, which is basically the suttas. And the second condition is when you listen, you have focused attention. So with these 2 conditions, if you have focused attention when you listen to the original suttas of the Buddha, then you will be able to understand. Because in the Samyutta Nikaya, I think, I forget, is it 50s? It is said that when you listen to the Dhamma with eager ears, with focused attention, with all your mind, at that moment when you are concentrating on listening to the Dhamma, the 5 hindrances are not there. The 5 hindrances hinder us from attaining wisdom. And it's also said when you are in that focused state, the 7 bojjhangas are present. So when you don't have the 5 hindrances and you possess the 7 bojjhangas, then you can understand and get right view and become an Arya. So basically, the standard way, you can say that 99% of people who attain stream entry is by listening to the Dhamma, listening to the discourses of the Buddha. We can see in the suttas and the Vinaya books, at one time the Buddha preached to 80,000 people, and all of them the Buddha said attain stream entry. Another time he preached to 120,000 people, and again the Buddha said all of them attain stream entry. So you can also see, as I mentioned 2 weeks ago in my talk here, the case of Venerable Sariputta and Moggallana. They heard the teaching from the Arahant Asaji and they attained stream entry. At that time, they were not disciples of the Buddha. So they had never seen the Buddha, they had never met the Buddha, they have never heard the Buddha. They only heard it from the Venerable Sariputta, only heard it from the Arahant, and he attained stream entry. After that, he went back and said the same thing to Venerable Moggallana, and Venerable Moggallana also attained stream entry. So you don't need the Buddha. And then you can see the case of Venerable Moggallana. You don't need an Arahant to teach you. If a person has attained stream entry, he can teach another person, and that second person can also attain stream entry. And at that time, both of them were considered laymen. They had not become bhikkhus, monks under the Buddha. So a layman, an Arya layman can teach another person, and that person can attain stream entry. Only thing is you need to be intelligent. If you are intelligent, then when you listen to the Dhamma, you can understand the various implications of the Buddha's words. If you are not intelligent, you won't be able to grasp the implications. Okay?
Thank you for the wonderful answer. So you heard the first question and we have the first answer. So I will ask the floor now. Anybody would like to ask the first question? Alright, we have
one day, let's see there's this lay person who is striving to enter the stream. And if one day, out of self-defense, he kills somebody, kills a person, probably a robber. Of course, in the eyes of the law, I believe he will be put behind bars. My question is, will this lay person be able to, or even have the chance to be a stream enterer? Thank you.
So your question was somebody kills somebody else in self-defense, yeah? So does he have a chance to become a stream enterer? When you kill somebody else in self-defense, it depends on whether you have the intention to kill him or not. If it is basically to save your life, it is not for, your sole purpose was not to kill him, but for example, to save your child. So, it is not that heavy karma. Intention, in the Buddha's teachings, intention is karma. The most important thing is when we do anything, our intention behind it. So because your intention is not evil, you're trying to save somebody or save yourself, then it should not be a problem. In fact, you can see in the case, there is a case in the suttas where somebody intentionally killed so many people and yet became an Arahant. Who is that? Angulimala. killed hundreds of people. But because he has very good karma from the past life, the Buddha could see that. So the Buddha purposely went to him for his own good. So it's not a problem.
There's another second question. Bhante, the first question being asked, I got a message that ordinary person can also become Arya at the first stage of Simbo. What about the next 2, 3, and the 4th stage? Can an ordinary person also attain that?
You must take the DVD here, Sutta Guide to Paths and Fruits. I gave a very detailed talk, and in that talk I mentioned that in the Anguttara Nikaya 3.86, it is mentioned that Sotapanna and Sakadagamin, they have perfect sila, and Anagamin, third fruit attainer, has perfect sila and perfect concentration, and an Arahant has perfect sila, perfect concentration, and perfect wisdom. Now, perfect concentration in the Buddha's teachings is the 4 jhanas. Okay, so the Sotapanna, in my view, in my personal opinion, Sotapanna does not need jhana. In fact, there's a sutta that is very clear on this. I forgot the exact number. But in that sutta, the Buddha said there are 2 kinds of persons with the 4 factors of a Sotapanna. There are 4 characteristics of a Sotapanna. Is he has unshakable faith in the Buddha, unshakable faith in the Dhamma, unshakable faith in the Sangha, and he has the Aryan precepts, which basically is the 7 precepts. So, there are 2 kinds of Sotapanna. One, he does not make any effort to attain jhana. The second type is called, careless Sotapanna in the suttas. And the other one is a diligent Sotapanna. The diligent Sotapanna, after attaining these 4 characteristics of a Sotapanna, he makes effort by day and by night to attain the jhanas. So from this sutta, it's very clear that a Sotapanna does not need any jhana. The Anagamin, the third fruit, he needs 4 jhanas as a precondition to becoming an Anagamin. And same with the Arahant, need 4 jhanas to become an Anagamin and an Arahant. But a Sakadagamin needs either the first or the second or the third jhana as a precondition to attain the second path and second fruit.
Which means an ordinary person can reach until Arahant stage.
Yes, provided he has the 4 jhanas.
The importance is the 4 jhanas.
Yes, that is the precondition.
What about is it necessary for an ordinary person to go into Abhidhamma in order to improve himself?
Tomorrow, we are having the Vachana conference. This is one of the things. In the Anguttara Nikaya 4.180, the Buddha said, if any monk says that he heard it from the Buddha directly, or he heard it from a Sangha of learned monks, or he heard it from a group of learned elders, or he heard it from one very learned elder, that the Buddha taught like this. The Buddha said he should neither accept it or reject it. Without accepting it or rejecting it, you should compare it with the suttas and the Vinaya. If it agrees with the suttas and the Vinaya, you can accept it. If it does not agree, you should not accept it. So, the Buddha always talked about his teachings as being Dhamma Vinaya. He always said his teachings are Dhamma Vinaya. Later, Abhidhamma came in. So we can find, for example, in the Suttas and the Vinaya, the Buddha said his true Dhamma will last 500 years. And exactly 500 years after the Buddha's passing away, later books started. So we want to know during that 500 years where we have the true Dhamma, what was the Dhamma at that time? And luckily we have Emperor Asoka. Emperor Asoka lived about 250 years after the Buddha's passing away. Now Emperor Asoka had a lot of faith in the Buddha and the Buddha's words. So he asked the men to make these stone pillars, something like every kilometer on the road, and they carved out the words of the Buddha. Now after 2000, something like 600 years, they have dug up these Asoka pillars in India, and they found that during Emperor Asoka's time, there were only 5 Nikayas. Only the Suttas existed. 5 Nikayas and 5 Vinaya books in Pali. So this is original Buddhism or early Buddhism. The 5 Nikayas and the 5 books of the Vinaya. You will find in later books that they say things that the Buddha did not say. And the Buddha said in the Digha Nikaya, Sutta 29, the Buddha said his teachings on the holy path are perfect and complete. Perfect and complete, it means you cannot make it more perfect. You cannot make it more complete. So the Buddha said, if you think you want to add to what the Buddha said, you don't see his Dhamma. In other words, you don't appreciate that the Buddha's Dhamma, the Buddha's Suttas are perfect and complete. If you don't see his Dhamma, it means you don't have right view. If you don't have right view, you are not an Arya. If you want to subtract from his words, also you don't see the Dhamma. What does this mean? That's why when you listen to suttas, you have to catch the implications. It implies that the later monks who wrote all the later books are not Arya at all. Not Arya. In fact, the Buddha said they lead people astray and they create much demerit. And they cause the disappearance of the true Dhamma. So I was saying, later books say things that the Buddha never said. They add to what the Buddha said, which the Buddha says is not necessary. So you find in our suttas, original Buddhism, the Buddha talked about 6 consciousness. Only 6 consciousness. Mahayana books talk about 7 consciousness, 8 consciousness. Similarly, Abhidhamma talks about Bhavanga, Javana, Kalapa, Patisandhi Citta, Chuti Citta, all these things that the Buddha never mentioned. That is a trait, the characteristic of later books.
Can we have the next question? At the back, in the back. One day, I thought you were saying that when Buddha gave a talk, 12,000 disciples got Sotapan. But I see so many of us running everywhere to listen to Dhamma talk. He still did not reach the Sotapan. Is there any secret within Buddha's work?
The secret is during the Buddha's time, there were no mobile phones, there was no internet.
But then I see them going to retreat, chasing retreat after retreat, listening to Dhamma talk after Dhamma talk, but it's still the same.
You know how many hours?
How can we know the secret to the Sotapanna?
Nowadays, how many hours do you spend listening to the sutta? How many hours did you play on the internet and on the mobile phone? And computer games?
So which means that no secret.
Actually, if you go to a Buddhist country like Thailand, on those Uposatha days, you find the villagers, they come to the monastery and they stay overnight. And they try to meditate the whole night. And some of them can meditate because these people are very simple-minded. Very straightforward, simple-minded. Nowadays, people are very complex. You get some psycho cases. So, it's different.
Next question, the person at the back. Last row, second last row.
Bhante, I looked up the Satapatha Samhita 55 or something, and I saw the words ... leading to concentration hunting. And personally, mind you, it's a bit risky to leave off trying for jhana because you can't really be sure that you have enough Dhamma knowledge that you are Dhamma Nusari or Sada Nusari. But if you can attain jhana, then at least you're secure. Because the Okanti Sutta is very unreliable, Bhante, at death. That's like leaving it to the last minute. And also, the Kamathana Bhante is very clear. There's no mental cultivation. And the woeful plane is, the threat of rebirth in the woeful plane is there. And a Sotapan will not be reborn in the woeful plane, so that suggests some mental cultivation is needed.
These people who attain stream entry upon listening to the Dhamma, it means that they have good karma from the past life. Very good karma from the past life. And some of them may have been ascetics in the past life who had already cultivated the jhanas. For example, in the suttas, there was a young man who was from a very rich family, and every day he will amuse himself by drinking liquor and watching the slaves or the maids dancing for him, singing and all that, and he'll be half drunk. So one day he was in that state, half drunk, and the Buddha purposely walked in front of his house. So he was like in a stupor. But when he saw the Buddha, something from the past in him made him stare at the Buddha. And because he stared at the Buddha with focused attention, he shook off his drunkenness. And then he went to the Buddha and paid respect to the Buddha. Then the Buddha taught him the Dhamma. And then he must have attained stream entry. And later, he became an Anagamin, I believe. So, it's a lot to do with our past karma. You see, like in India, before the Buddha was enlightened, there were many yogis who practiced and attained jhanas. And they even had psychic powers. But because they had no knowledge of the true Dhamma, you could not find a single Arya. Only after the Buddha came and taught the Dhamma, and these people with good karma from the past, they attained. And after they attained, then there were some who renounced and practiced the jhanas. So you find it's mostly got to do with past life karma, not so much present life. Because even when the Buddha was in India, there were still external ascetics who refused to follow the Buddha, and they also cultivated jhana, but they didn't become Arya. It is clear from the suttas that only by attaining right view do you become an Arya. Only by attaining right view. And right view only has two conditions. The voice of another teaching you the true Dhamma and focused attention. Only these two conditions are necessary and you can become an Arya. Of course, if you have been cultivating jhana, and then when you hear the Dhamma, you will attain much faster and maybe become a Sakadagamin or Anagamin or Arhan